With that, then, let's call the meeting to order. We're 5:35 here, so. All right, meeting of the Iowa City Human Rights Commission, March 26, 2024. We'll go through roll call. Commissioner Pandya.
Here.
All right, Commissioner Johns is absent. Commissioner Kolash is here. Kadora.
Here.
Ismael is no longer with us. Prees.
Here.
Lusala, no. Paul Shantz.
Yes, here.
And Mendez Shannon, not with us. So we are right at quorum. Do we have someone to read the Native American land acknowledgement?
As I get to it, I can read it.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
We meet today in the community of Iowa City, which now occupies the homelands of Native American nations, to whom we owe our commitment and dedication. The area of Iowa City was within homelands of the Iowa, Meskwaki, and Sauk, and because history is complex and time goes far back beyond memory, we also acknowledge the ancient connections of many other indigenous peoples here. The history of broken treaties, forced removal that dispossessed indigenous people of their homelands was and is an act of colonization and genocide that we cannot erase. We implore the Iowa City community to commit to understanding and addressing these injustices as we work toward equity, restoration, and reparations.
Very nice job, thank you. Approval of the February 27th meeting minutes.
So move.
Seconded.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, meeting minutes from last month are approved. Item number 4, public comment on items not on the agenda. Commentators shall address the commission for no more than 5 minutes. Commissioners shall not engage in discussion with the public or one another concerning said items. Do we have anyone wishing to make comment on items not on the agenda?
And we do just have one person on Zoom, so if they have a question, they would just need to raise their hand, and I'll keep my eye on that.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is MJ. I am co-chair of Iowa City DSA. I am here to comment on the creation of...
It's on the agenda, so we can...
Okay, so this is not, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, just for items that aren't on our agenda. Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, correspondence. Don't see anything in the packet. Stephanie, was there anything? Okay. All right, item 6, updates on outreach and engagement by the police department.
So they apologize. One was at training all day and one had another engagement, so.
Okay,
They
so no
said
one
they
here
will
tonight.
catch everybody up in April, and they've been doing a lot of exciting things that they're looking forward to telling you about, so.
All right, exciting. Sounds good. Okay, item 7, presentation by Lulu Merle Johnson Exhibit Project.
Good afternoon. Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, good. All right. I am Rebecca Connard, and Sonia Jackson is on the other screen there. And we are delighted to be with you this afternoon. I think that you have a brochure
Yes, we
that was sent out in your packets, or that is there on the beside your stations. That have you all seen that?
Yeah.
If not, then we'll do a screen share. Okay, great. Yeah. So Sonia and I are the exhibit team for design team for the Lulu Merle Johnson Exhibit Project. I am a historian, and I worked with the Johnson County Board of Supervisors last year, during which time I met Sonia and her family, who live in Des Moines. And Sonia, her parents, and her 2 sisters are Lulu Merle's descendants. So it's been a delight working with them, and so much so that Sonia is now working, we are working together on the exhibit design. So not often when you're working on a project of this nature that you get to work with family members who knew her very, very well. So that's kind of, I think, a bonus on this project that we've all enjoyed very much. So the brochure that you have in front of you gives a little bit about the project. There's a little bit of a bio about Dr. Johnson, and that what you see in the image there, that is kind of the centerpiece of our vision for the exhibit, which will have an exterior or an outdoor and an indoor component. And that bronze sculpture will be the centerpiece of the outside exhibit area, which will be in front of the east side of the county administration building. And then the indoor part will be in an area that is a waiting area or a lounge area that is adjacent to the new meeting space for the Board of Supervisors, which will be on the third floor of the HHS building, rather than in the administration building proper. We're going to tell you a little bit about how we came about that particular idea for the sculpture, and then zero in a little bit and focus on the way the interpretation will address human rights. And Sonia, do you want to talk a little bit about the sculpture?
Sure. I am going to ask at some point if we can go back to sort of the general context of how we ended up here, sort of the backstory of getting here. And I think that you would, you should do that piece. And then I can talk about the sculpture if you don't mind.
Sure. And you do have in the brochure a little bit of information about this whole project, how it came about, with the Board of Supervisors actually entering into what became a rather lengthy process, deliberative process, to choose a new person for whom the county would be named. And the former eponym being Richard Mentor Johnson, who was a former vice president in the 19th century under Martin Van Buren, whose claim to fame was killing Tecumseh in the War of 1812, and one of the battles. And the other thing that he was known for, and was rather controversial figure even in own time, was being a slave owner, but not just a slave owner, also being someone who had a family with one of the enslaved people. So he was a really controversial figure in his own time, and really not someone that people on the Board of Supervisors or other members of the community really felt was an appropriate eponym for the 21st century, certainly not in Iowa City. And so Lula Merle Johnson was already someone who was known to at least one of the supervisors and to other people in the community. But when they embarked on this excursion, just kind of embarked on this project to create a new eponym, her name came up. And all of that was kind of part of the whole reaction. I think Iowa City's response to the controversy over removing Confederate statues and monuments, and then the police brutality that certainly reached a fever pitch with the murder of George Floyd. And I think that was really what prompted the Board of Supervisors to act. They formed a committee that included some members of the community, members of the Board of Supervisors, and David McCartney and Leslie Schmalm from the university. And they were the two who really did the most research on her. And in the course of doing that, Leslie Schwalm discovered a piece that Sonia had published in the Chicago
Sometimes.
Yes. And made contact with Sonia, realized that there were descendants, got more information from the family, put together a very nice package that then was considered along with other nominees by the board. And they selected Lula Merle Johnson as a result of that. And that designation took place in 2021. The next year, they decided that they needed more research and wanted to commemorate her achievements, memorialize her in a way, and interpret her life in a respectful way. So it's a lot of education as well as commemoration, which is why they wanted the research, and that research turned up a lot of information, certainly that was unknown to people who put together the nomination package. And I think some things that maybe are new to the family as well, and although the family knew her very, very well and have a lot of information about her. So can I turn it over to you now?
Absolutely. Sure. Thank you for that, Rebecca. And thank you for having us today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the actual sculpture itself that we've actually engaged Steve Maxon, who has done a lot of sculptures around Iowa City, like my great aunt and a number of my family members. I'm also a graduate of the University of Iowa, and had really focused, for many, many years from the time that I graduated, frankly, to try to get recognition for Aunt Lula. And you'll hear Rebecca say Dr. Johnson or Lulu Merle, and you'll hear me say Aunt Lulu, because I didn't know her as a scholar. I knew her as the person that I spent every summer with. And she was this quirky, fun, amazing woman. And I wish I knew all the things that I know about her now then, because I have so many questions. But so at any rate, Aunt Lula spent about 10 years. Her matriculation was in 1925. And 2025 will mark the 100th anniversary of her matriculation, which is when we hope to fully bring this project to fruition. Because it took her about 10 years, we discovered, to complete her doctorate. One of the things that we know is that she was not able to teach at the University of Iowa as an African-American woman in the same way that, people of color were not allowed to live in dormitories and that sort of thing. And so when Rebecca and I started thinking about what we wanted to represent in terms of a sculpture, what you'll notice, now the face isn't hers because it's a rendering that a designer has done for us, and we're continuing to fine tune with photos. So the exhibition, the sculpture will look exactly like her. But we wanted her to have her mortarboard under her arm, as a show of I did it. And then we want her to be sort of, she's moving east where the sculpture will be situated on the grounds of the Board of Supervisors building, the county administration building. Aunt Lula is facing east, because since she was never able to teach at the University of Iowa, she ended up during her college career teaching at HBCUs, and she ultimately ended up, spending her entire career and retiring from her career at Cheyney University in Cheyney, Pennsylvania, as the Dean of Women and also as a teacher. So we wanted to show that she was on the move. She's facing east because she's moving forward from, having been in Iowa. And, there's so much information, and we know that we're short on time. And so we're so appreciative of having the opportunity, to tell you about the project. Aunt Lula used to say to my sisters and me, always remember that you're 3 generations removed from slavery, because her grandparents were enslaved and ended up being pioneers in Iowa. Actually, the grandparents on both sides ended up being pioneers. And so there's a rich story, much of which, the family knew, a lot that we're discovering through this process. And so we're very excited to continue to, share the story and hopefully educate future generations about the accomplishments and successes of our ancestor.
Wow.
Amazing.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Other commissioners' comments?
It's really important.
Thank you for sharing, and it's really inspiring. Really appreciate you bringing this here. I'm so excited to go and share this back at the university with other students.
Thank you.
Well, and for me, anyway, it's important that in Iowa, there's reticence about teaching 1619 Project and Black history in America, and now we have Lula to help us understand the story. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I will say one of the things that we hope to do is work with the Iowa City Community School District and get something about her worked into the curriculum.
Thank you.
As well.
I'm especially inspired by Lula Merle Johnson, and I will just say that, she strikes me as somebody who is a trailblazer, both for her own rights and civil rights, and the right to study, the right to swim even, I hear with the pool at the University of Iowa, and change those regulations. And I hope that the statue will also then be a reminder that we are all collectively responsible for civil and human rights.
Yep.
And so I'm grateful that you've come to present about this exhibit to us. And I will also say it's also very timely because was she maybe captain of her high school basketball team in Clinton? It's very timely this week, if so.
Yes, she was. Right? I know. It is very timely. Caitlin Clark. Woohoo. There's a lot of excitement in my family about Caitlin Clark, but our blood runs deep black and gold.
Great. Thank you.
Right.
And that actually reminds me of, I was at a game at Carver Hawkeye Arena, during Black History Month in February, and there's a video of one of the players. I can't remember exactly who it was, but one of the players. There was a video where she told the story of Lula and the renaming of Johnson County, and what an inspiration she was at the time, and still continues to be for all of us.
I was not at that game, and it was not televised, so I've not been able to track down who made that video. Do you happen to know?
I would imagine it's the video team with the athletic department, because it was just shown in the arena.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. And I think I will add, I know we are short on time, but there is a really deep connection with the civil rights movement here. Mm-hmm. And we tend to think of the civil rights movement, and popular conception is that it begins with Brown versus Board of Education and really becomes something that touches the public's consciousness in the 1960s, or at least with the pushback to school desegregation that began in 1957. But among scholars, there is a different conception of the civil rights movement that is now called the long civil rights movement. Mm-hmm. And you can take it all the way back to the 19th century, but in the 20th century, the movement is something that really becomes kind of a radical awareness of how civil rights are being infringed among African Americans, how this is happening on a daily basis, and the beginning of pushback. And Lula Merle Johnson was part of that as a student. And then as an educator, she developed this course called The Negro in American Life, which is really in the forefront of what becomes known as Black history as a field or a subfield in the 1960s. So as a student and as an educator, she was in a position to kind of be part of that movement of growing awareness and beginnings of asserting one's own civil rights. And that happened at the University of Iowa. And the swimming pool incident and others are kind of part of that. It wasn't the kind of confrontation that we associate with the 1960s in the protest movements and the Black Pride, Black Power movements, but it was much more subtle. But it was something that created a lot of solidarity among students, and they took that into their careers in various ways. And in her career, it was really in creating this course that was designed to teach Black history as American history. And those things are very important and part of her significance. And in the indoor, in what we are planning on the indoor interpretation, that's going to be kind of front and center in the things that will be there.
That signature course was developed in the late 30s, early 40s. And so she was way on the forefront of that. Yes, super powerful.
The one last thing, just because we were talking about basketball, reminded me, she was at Cheney, so she would have been there at the same time as C. Vivian Stringer. Is that right?
I think there is a 1 year overlap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much. This was fascinating, very exciting work. Looking forward to seeing it come to fruition. And please let us know if you need anything from us, because I think all of us here are very supportive and impressed by the work that you've done so far.
Thank you. Well, we'll certainly want you at the unveiling and celebration. So we're going to come back to you about that for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great meeting.
Thank you. All right. Our next item is a presentation by the Community Transportation Committee.
And I think, was there any public comment before the present?
Or after?
Before is usually the more traditional way to do it. And I'm just going to put a piece of paper up there so I can have your names just for the record, too. Okay, thank you.
Hi again. My name is MJ. I go by MJ. My name is Maria Jose Plata Flores. I am an immigrant from Colombia, and I am co-chair of Iowa City DSA. I came to support the creation of a commission for transport. I am a bus rider. I take the bus to go to work and to go back home. I come from a city where public transportation and dignity are very complicated because I come from a very dense city. Bogota, Colombia is one of the densest cities of South America. So managing public transport there is very chaotic. And the Iowa City bus system, I feel like it is wonderful in many ways. I really appreciate the fact that it is free. I really appreciate the fact that it seems to work most of the times with the apps. It is frustrating, though, that the bus system does not work on Sundays. And I think that the city would benefit from making for giving the bus riders the chance to also use the system on Sundays. I understand that also means that the drivers have to be fairly paid and recognized. I know that because working on Sunday means a specific type of extra hours or overtime, then the compensation should be according to that, and maybe that is why the price can seem high. But I think that since the bus riders are workers and most of us support the state and the city with our taxes, whatever the price the bus drivers have. I am not sure, I was looking, if the bus drivers have a union. I think that they are represented by Teamster Local. I think that there can be an agreement that benefit everyone. If it means hiring more bus drivers, then that is more jobs. And if it also means compensating them for the time, well, that is what has to be done in order for the city to be able to not only have the bus system on Sundays. We also think that in Iowa City, DSA, we think that having longer hours on the public transit would benefit the working class of the city. That is why I wanted to talk on support of the creation of the commission. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, introduce yourself. You have 5 minutes.
My name is Dawn Pulowski. I have a disability and I can't drive. I depend entirely on public transportation. Since the routes were changed about 2 years ago, I have two major issues with the Iowa City Transit. One is that there is no map, there's no system map with all the routes on it that you can print out bigger than 11 by 17, and that one doesn't have the street names on it at all. And you can't tell which side of the street the stops are on because they're like big black dots in the middle of the road. And at each stop, this is an example of what I would put at each stop of all the times that that bus is going to come to that stop the whole day, because there are so many outages of the app and the websites, and there are still some people who don't have smartphones. I can't tell you the number of times, even when the app is functioning, like it doesn't show some of the routes. And I don't know if that's still because like sometimes the GPS thing doesn't show up on that bus, so it looks like there are no buses running. So when you look, it says there's no bus coming, so you wouldn't know the bus is coming unless you had planned ahead or if you were standing at that stop and could actually see the times. And for some reason, the stop numbers are not on any of the printouts.
Oh.
And I don't even think they're on the app either. So those are the two main things that I would want addressed with a transit commission. And just to let you know, I did ask for such a map for 2 years. I requested a map, and I'm sure there were other people besides me who needed such a map. Currently, Darian Nagelgam has told me that they are working on creating a system map to be printed out bigger than 11 by 17. But maybe there is some input that transit riders could be giving as well to help make that map. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Will Denny. I'm a longtime resident, of Iowa City, also an instructor at Kirkwood Community College. Two main points I wanted to come to support the formation of this Transit Advisory Committee. The first is, for quite a while living here, I've often heard people describe Iowa City as having a parking problem. But I think it's less of a parking problem, more of a transit problem. There are people who, would drive quarter mile, half a mile, rather than ride the bus because it's just more convenient. Also, I teach English as a second language, so I have a lot of students coming from other countries. Sometimes English is very difficult for them to understand, so seeing like the signs, the apps are in English, like all of that stuff needs to be more accessible for them. And also, I think in my own experience as well, trying to use the bus gets a little difficult when you need to be at a job, at class at a certain time, because everything just kind of goes downtown, and then you have to wait maybe another half hour for the next bus to take you where you actually want to go. And sometimes, if the bus at your local, like the stop near your house, ends up leaving a couple minutes early, you just have to wait another half hour, and it's quicker if you just walk. So that's the few points I wanted to bring up in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to allow to talk on Zoom.
Zoom.
Oh, someone on the Zoom? Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Hi, my name's Audrey Keys. I live here in Iowa City. I also work for the city in the Parks Department. And I am also speaking because I would like to support the creation of the Public Transit Advisory Commission. For me, I first became aware of the issues with Iowa City's public transit system back in 2014 when I worked as a job coach for Goodwill of the Heartland. And part of my duties as job coach included giving people rides to and from work. And often I had clients that worked really late night shifts, like they were often like dishwashers on the closing shift and things like that. So they'd be working well past 10 p.m., maybe even 11. And some of them were people who would use the bus during the day, but they simply couldn't at night. And what was really unfortunate about all this is I also had a number of clients in this situation that could work actually quite independently and didn't necessarily need me to be there for their whole shift as their job coach. But because they had no other way home and taking Ubers and taxis are just too expensive, then they would keep me on, like on the clock as their job coach just so I could give them a ride home, which was a really inefficient use of their Medicaid benefits because that is how Goodwill got the money to pay for these services, right? Is by using the clients would have a certain number of hours of job coaching benefits allocated to them, and they would have to use these in order to get a ride home at night, which I just don't feel like is really a great use of that benefit. Like they could have used it for other things or gotten different kinds of services instead. And so this is something that's been in conversation, I feel like, around Iowa City for at least 10 years. This is when I first started talking about it. And so just considering the variety of issues that has been brought up just by the four of us that have talked here so far tonight, I think it would make a lot of sense to have this Public Transit Advisory Commission because currently there isn't really a great way to bring these issues forward to the city. And I know we did a public transit survey a few years ago, and they did make some changes after that. But I would say that my experience with that survey is that the scope was rather limited, and the options that were presented to us to choose between just did not encompass all of the things that people wanted to address. And so that is why I'm in favor of creating the Public Transit Advisory Commission. Thank you.
And to see if I can speak to it.
Oh, also, my partner is here. Can they also speak real quick?
Sure.
Yeah, if they could just either before or after they have spoken, just say their first and last name for the minutes. I just need to reflect that.
Sweet, they can do that right now. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ewan Lee. I live in Iowa City. I ride the bus every day for work. And I wasn't going to talk, but I overheard all this stuff. And my biggest thing, I'm in favor of a transportation committee because I think there needs to be a conversation about what the priorities of what needs to be needed for Iowa City transportation. One of the big things I wish I could see here is bus stops having benches or shelters, because on my way on the bus, I see so many people out in the rain, out in the snow, getting passed by buses because there's just nothing there. They're sitting on the ground, and I think there's just some sort of, I don't know, it just feels bad to have people wait around sitting on the ground with nothing to sit on, older folks, people with disabilities, with no shelter and no benches. And I think it'd be a really easy way to really improve public transit, and people want to use these systems if it felt inviting, as opposed to having no structures at all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's both of us, so we're good now. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So then I think we can move to the presentation.
All right, hello. My name is Victor Fontanez, and I'm an intern at the Community Transportation Committee here in Iowa City. I'm currently a public health student at the University of Iowa, and as someone who's interested in public health, I feel compelled to share my opinions and advocate for policies that would make the lives of Iowa City residents safer and easier. That being said, here's a proposal for the creation of an Iowa City Transit Advisory Commission. You may ask, what is a City Transit Advisory Commission? Well, it's defined as an advisory board appointed by the City Council to advise on public transportation services. Transit advisory commissions offer an opportunity to include the expertise and perspectives of many different populations, such as city transportation staff, community representatives and figures, transit professionals, city council members, and even those of the city's own riders. The establishment of a City Transit Advisory Commission is crucial for several reasons. Firstly, its potential creation aligns with goals outlined in Iowa City's strategic plan that emphasize the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusivity in transit planning, ensuring that the needs and perspectives of all residents are considered. With Iowa City's diverse populations of transit users, many of whom are currently underrepresented in public outreach efforts, such as students, seniors, disabled riders, low-income residents, second and third shift workers, LGBTQ+, and BIPOC riders. The Commission serves as a platform to amplify their voices and address their specific concerns. Additionally, the Commission bridges the gap between policy decisions and the individuals directly impacted by these decisions, fostering greater transparency, accountability, and responsiveness in the transit planning process. As previously mentioned, Iowa City transit riders are made up of many different populations, including students, disabled riders, single parents, low-income Iowans, LGBTQ+, and BIPOC riders, and immigrants. Residents of other cities and states also utilize the transit system in Iowa City when they come to attend events and festivals, shop, or simply visit. Many of the aforementioned populations as well are often underrepresented in transit decisions and therefore are harmed by policies that may not adequately address their needs. For example, these riders may find it challenging to attend in-person public meetings, such as this one, due to meeting times, taking time off work, or physical inaccessibility. In addition, the limited availability of accessible transportation options further hinders their engagement in traditional public input processes. Transit riders who are typically underrepresented are those who may be marginalized by prior planning decisions, such as people of color, low-income households, single parents, people with disabilities, and second and third shift workers. These groups tend to have lower access to opportunities such as childcare, jobs, education, healthcare, and grocery stores than other transit riders or car owners. These groups are more likely to use transit for a variety of trips, not just commuting, and are more sensitive to the quality of transit service than other riders. These groups are often overlooked and ignored in transit planning and decision-making processes, which tend to cater to the preferences of higher income or choice riders. The concept of a transit advisory commission is not new. For example, one city who has already formed such a commission is Wausau, Wisconsin. The Wausau, Wisconsin Transit Commission serves as a pivotal body responsible for assisting in the formulation of policies pertaining to the Wausau area transit system, tasked with making recommendations to the mayor and city council, its scope encompassing various aspects such as service areas, transit rates, budgeting, and scheduling. According to Matthew Rosenblum Jones, the Wausau Transit Director, the Commission is driven by overarching objectives aimed at promoting system modernization, fostering future regionalism, and providing essential oversight and guidance in operational matters. Comprising 5 members initially, the Commission has the potential to expand to up to 8 members, consisting of 3 alderpersons, 2 Wausau residents, and representatives from each community served by the Wausau area transit system. Another city who's formed such a commission is Edina, Minnesota. The Edina, Minnesota Transit Commission plays a vital role in advising the city council on various policies and decisions concerning the local street system, mass transit options, and safety measures for residents. Tasked with evaluating strategies for integrating traffic calming and speed mitigation measures, the Commission offers residents an opportunity to raise transportation-related concerns. According to Andy Lewis, the chair of the Edina Transportation Commission, each member brings a unique perspective and passion to their work, collectively forming a representative group that channels the community's input towards shaping the transportation networks and services. And with a total of 11 members, including a chair and vice chair, as well as the inclusion of 2 high school students, the Commission reflects a diverse array of voices committed to enhancing transportation accessibility and safety for the residents of Edina. In addition, both Sun Prairie, Wisconsin and Eau Claire, Wisconsin, both transit commissions designed to address the unique transportation needs of their respective communities. In Eau Claire, the commission comprises of 9 members, including 6 citizens, 1 University of Wisconsin Eau Claire student, 1 resident from the city of Altoona, and 1 council member. Conversely, Sun Prairie's commission consists of 6 members, featuring representatives from various sectors vital to the community's transit interest. These include a representative from the senior citizen community, the school district, the business community, and 2 representatives from the general community, along with a member of their city council. Such diverse compositions underscore the commitment of both cities to inclusivity and effective representation in shaping their transit systems to best serve their residents' needs. Many of the cities aforementioned also are small cities with similar population sizes as Iowa City, so this proves that the creation of such a commission is feasible. Establishing a transit advisory commission holds numerous potential benefits for the Iowa City community. It would provide a vital forum for residents to voice suggestions and concerns regarding transit services, ensuring their perspectives are heard and considered in decision-making processes. Particularly significant is the increased accessibility to decision makers for individuals who rely solely on public transit or who are often underrepresented in traditional forms of community engagement, such as online surveys and public meetings. Additionally, a city-level transit commission would serve as a beacon of inclusivity and diversity, amplifying the voices of those who are typically marginalized in local governance structures, thus fostering a more representative and equitable approach to addressing transit needs within Iowa City. Establishing a transit advisory commission also offers several potential benefits to the city. Firstly, it promises a high return on investment, as the presence of diverse opinions with the commission could streamline transit planning processes, potentially reducing the expenses associated with hiring outside contractors and conducting commissioning studies. Moreover, the commission can facilitate more efficient resolutions of complaints and concerns related to transit, alleviating the burden on transit staff by providing additional advisors equipped to respond to community input. Furthermore, by encouraging public transportation and transit planning, the Commission could potentially boost ridership. This aligns with Iowa City's Climate Action Plan, as increased ridership contributes to the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, addressing a high priority goal for the city. An Iowa City Transit Commission can also help the city reach climate goals listed in its 2017 Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. A transit commission would study problems and recommend policies that would increase the use of public transit systems, embrace electric vehicles, increase bicycle and pedestrian transportation, and increase employee commuter options, and reduce the city's vehicle emissions footprint. All of these actions have been labeled high priority to the Citizens Climate Plan and have been predicted to greatly reduce local greenhouse gas emissions. The creation of a transit commission also has the potential to increase ridership on local public transit. This is because a potential commission's inclusion of members from all backgrounds, which may include typical Iowa City residents. When residents are included in policymaking and community engagement practices, they're more likely to want to participate in the institutions that they're influencing. You can see it as them enjoying the product of their hard work. In addition, if more people are riding public transit, they are less likely to rely on private transportation, like personal vehicles. A lesser reliance on such vehicles has been consistently shown to reduce gas emissions. As a city committed to protecting the environment and giving its residents a clean, safe place to live, it is imperative that its officials take further steps to establish a transit commission. In conclusion, establishing a transit commission at the city level offers a pivotal avenue for fostering inclusivity and diversity within the Iowa City community, granting a voice to those often marginalized in local governance. Such an initiative stands to significantly enhance the city's transportation system by ensuring its efficiency, effectiveness, and alignment with the diverse needs of its residents. With a dedicated entity focused on these matters, Iowa City can make substantial strides towards enhancing access to safe, reliable, and sustainable transportation options for its population. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We probably have a couple questions. One question I have, is what other commissions or groups?
Easy.
Oh,
Like literally?
Sorry?
oh, wait a second.
Maybe I'll just take the opportunity to thank those who spoke
Yes.
before the presentation
Thank you.
too.
Yeah.
Thank you for your comments and your reflections, and also for those joining by Zoom. That was really useful. So I think hopefully I bought some time, Doug.
Yes, yeah. I just had a question about where else have you made this presentation, and what other parts of city government have you petitioned about this?
This would actually be
Could you step up to the mic, please? Thank you.
Personally, this would be the first that I'd petitioned. I'm sure the Transportation Committee as a whole has done more work in researching this idea and advocating for it, but that's all I can say on my part.
Yeah. Right. Questions from
Is there an action you expect from us tonight?
Hopefully to take a vote to towards the building of the commission, so then later we could start finding members for such a commission.
So I've ridden the bus a lot. I like it. I didn't like it when they moved the bus stop from across the street from my house to the top of the hill on either end of my street. It made it hard. I'm also very much aware of we have a hub, which makes it very difficult. Everything centers downtown.
Yep.
And some of the rides are very, very long to get where you need to go and where you need to get back. And it does seem to, I'd like your response to this. It seems to be west-focused. There's more buses going to the west side than there are to the south or southeast side.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I want to say it's because there's more like economic production on the west side of the city, so that's probably why the routes are more centered around that. But it would be great if we could get more routes out there too.
I also wanted to support you in this idea of working the buses at night, because I didn't know it stopped at 9.
I think the latest route stops at 11 p.m.
Well, mine didn't.
Yes.
I had to call for help. How could I get home? Because there was no bus that was
Right,
going to
yeah.
take me home.
Very common problem for some residents.
If there's a motion necessary for us to support the proposal of a creation of an Iowa City Transit Advisory Commission, I so move.
Thank you.
All right, there's a motion to support the creation of a commission. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so we will vote. All those in favor of supporting the creation of a city transit commission?
Could we just have some slight discussion before?
Yeah,
Because I think that
absolutely.
closes our.
It would close things,
discussion.
yes, yeah, but
So-
there's a motion, so if there's a motion, we act on it, so, but yeah, if you.
I'm
we'll-
supportive, just to
We will
put
table the
cards on the
motion to
table.
continue discussion. Go ahead, Kelsey.
I just had a couple of questions. One is, I wondered if you could speak to us about how you see this connecting in across the county. So at the county level, there's a lot of efforts to bridge the gaps in transportations between systems. And I know too, Kelly Schneider, who's the mobility coordinator for the county, she's a really great resource. She recently presented to the joint entities meeting in January on a new pilot that's going to be happening to connect into northern Johnson County. I think it's a great, if you haven't read about it yet, I'd be happy to share more information, but it seems like a really great pilot program. So just wanted to ask and see, are you already connected with that? Did you think about maybe whether this would be a city-focused commission or a county-focused advisory group too? Or could you share a little bit about that conversation with us?
Sure. I think we've ventured out to like nearby cities in Johnson County, like maybe Coralville and North Liberty, to expand transit access. I'm not sure about the commission in general, but that could start in Iowa City. I feel like Iowa City is a leader in some place, in some instances, and like setting an example to other cities. So I definitely think that if a commission was established in Iowa City, that it could influence nearby cities in Johnson County to create their own commissions or to work together with Iowa City to expand transit and listen to the concerns that our residents have.
Yeah, I think too, if it was county inclusive, that could absolutely prioritize those who are living within Iowa City who might be commuting even. So there's a lot of jobs that are occurring outside of our city limits, and a lot of our transportation gaps are related to even reaching jobs that don't happen to be just within our city limits. So, I would say I think there might be a really great opportunity to think about not just in our city, but also at the county level, coordinating with those who are doing a lot of really great coordination efforts. I think they would be open and receptive to a conversation about insights from across the community, but also what that could mean of informing are those who sit within positions of power at city level, but also in Iowa City, but also our county supervisors and the decisions they're making about countywide funds.
Anecdotally, I'd like to add, just support you on the idea of equity, of how this works for that, and the diversity and inclusion, it's all there. One of the things you experience when you ride the bus regularly at the same times is there's a community that develops on the bus.
Oh, definitely.
And some of the languages, I remember at the top of the hill, this phrase, "We got a runner."
Yep.
And you need to learn the language about what that means, because the bus will slow down. But it's that sense of community and belonging that's, I think, so helpful.
I just wanted to say thank you for such a wonderful presentation and everybody who came and gave their public comments. I went to one of their meetings that invited the Human Rights Commission, and we met, I think, at Pasta or one of those places. They were able to there was so much that was going on, so I really, really appreciate it. And as someone who has ridden the bus because I didn't have a car for 2.5 years, I know how crucial it is to be able to advance this as a human rights initiative and effort. So really appreciate everybody for coming.
I'm going to add one more piece. The reason that I rode the bus, it wasn't on one of your lists. It was that I decided we were going to live with one car, and I would do the bus. And it was very good for me and my fitness because I had to walk a lot to get to the bus and to work.
Another thing I should mention is that with the current routes, some people are forced to walk a great distance to even get to a bus stop. And for people who say are disabled, they might not be able to make that journey. And so we could take some of those concerns and pass it on to a potential transit commission. And yeah.
And the weather doesn't help. When
The
it's
weather
extremely
definitely does
cold,
not
you can
help.
get frostbites.
Totally, yep.
Walking.
Yes, this is one of the things that I noticed driving around, like seeing all those people waiting around, and there's no shelter, whether it's raining or snowing, and sometimes when they have little children with them, and that just breaks my heart as a mother, knowing what they're going through, or if they miss the bus, they have to wait for another,
45 minutes sometimes.
Yes, yeah. So this is greatly needed.
Yeah, thank
and
you.
I'm supportive of it. Yeah.
Lots of really good points in your presentation. There are a lot of equity issues, I think, that you raise that are deserving of attention. Yes. So, are there other comments? Okay, we're ready to act on the motion that is on the table to support the creation of the Transit Commission. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. You officially have the support of the Human Rights Commission. Thank you. All right. Let's see, time check. We're at 6:30. So number 9, racial equity, social justice grant updates, fiscal year 23-24, 25. First bullet point here is update to the rubric for fiscal year 25. We just, as to kind of set the stage for this topic, as you know, we recently completed all of our recommendations for racial equity and social justice grants that we will formally present to City Council at the next meeting on Tuesday, April 2nd. During that discussion, we talked about the rubric that we use that has been around for 3 years now? 2 years? 2 years? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's been used twice.
Okay. And so just to take some time to talk about the rubric, how it's working. Is it working? Are there things that need to be adjusted to that rubric? And just to have a conversation about that process as we kind of wind down the grant section of the year.
I was just going to say, so we had a 5-point scale, which makes it, and we were talking about the concern of outliers. So it's hard to know because if you end up grading more on one of those scales, it could not be very, statistically, it's not the best to display it more fairly. So I was thinking if we could do rubrics such as, instead of keeping a 5-point, we could keep it a 10-point scale on each item. So seven items would make it 70 points. And then we apply a formula of converting that 70 to make it 100. And out of 100, it's just a simple formula. It's not complicated. So when you put your scores out of 70 on Excel sheet, that would show you a percentage of what percent it is out of 100. And from that 100, we might be able to have a better judgment from a scale of 0 to 100 rather than, I think 35 was what we had this time. That was just my thought.
And one thing that may help is if at a future meeting, there's actually like a template to look at.
Yeah.
I'm a visual person, so that might help too. It's a great suggestion, but actually being able to see it might assist too.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. I think I would agree there. I think if we could create a committee to redo the rubric, or any commissioner, you're welcome to put together a draft, a template, and we can all take a look at it and kind of go from there and decide what changes we want to make. That would be one thing. I think maybe documenting a process for evaluating those, like when we all come together, how do we bring that together? How do we, is it the average? Is it the total points? And maybe just putting a little more formality around that too.
That makes sense. I'm happy to volunteer for that, and if a committee wants to do it, I'm happy to do that too. But other than that, individually also, I'm happy to work on it.
And if a commissioner wants to, Madison in the office, if you wanted to call, email, set up a time, they have the time to do it too.
Thank you.
So just follow up with me and I'll get in touch with Madison and you guys can kind of work out what your vision is. And
As an old commissioner, I certainly appreciate this rubric far more than the previous. The previous was very awkward.
Yeah. I had a conversation with former Commissioner Jason Glass over the weekend, and he said the same thing, that the rubric was a godsend. It was a very, very needed and helpful improvement. So, yeah, I think I've only been around with the rubric. The rubric is about as old as my term on the commission. So I'm glad that it's here. I've heard the meetings were long and a bit hard to organize without it.
As long as we're talking about process, I think it's difficult for a new commissioner to be handed the book and say, have this done by the next meeting. And is there any way that we could time that differently? You don't have to talk about it tonight. It's just, what did I get myself into? Because it can become arduous. Like this time, we had 29 applicants, all of them worthy of our attention.
Stephanie, is there? You're the one you're the poor soul that has to do all of the work of organizing all of that together. As we get more applications, that work is increasing, and then has there been discussion or consideration of changing the time frame because of the volume of applications we have to review?
Sure. I would say I wouldn't really back it further out, just because the budget, it ends June 30th, and sometimes it gets bumped to a council meeting in April. And so then you don't have a lot of time, if council approves the recommendation, to get the agreements out and everything. But you could move it up.
Yeah,
You just couldn't move it
up to
before
October,
July
November,
1st.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's something that can be considered. I would have to, there might be something that maybe needs to be sent to city council, but it's doable for the next year, as long as it's after. It just needs to be July 1st through June 30th, but June 30th just is kind of impossible. So it would just need to be moved up.
I have a question in regard of the, if you ever got a criticism from the applicants themselves in regard to the scoring booklet that they get access to review, or if they, ask to see it.
Did I get request?
Or criticism in regard to the scoring booklet that, they have an access to.
I have, the request that I have had is for organizations to see how they were reviewed, right? Some, out of curiosity, some for improvements in the future, just kind of to see what you guys are prioritizing and what they probably could think about emphasizing the next time. But goodness, I would say, I don't think it's been more than 5. If even 5, I'd say between 3 and 5. So.
Just one reflection too. I think that we have, further to go as more people. We had more applications this year than I think maybe any year previously, for a total of almost $550,000 for only $100,000 that we have to give out. And so as we see an uptick in those who are interested in this grant application and this grant cycle process, and actually using the funds to advance racial equity and social justice in our community, I think it could be really interesting as we're looking at the rubric, but also as we're looking at our communications tools of how we communicate with each other about what priorities we have as a commission related to racial equity and social justice, how we are defining that. I think there's a little bit of subjectivity there with every new member of the commission, and as that changes over. And so the more that we can share that with each other, the more then we can share that with applicants, so that everything's a little bit more transparent, I think, coming into the process. I know we already, this past year, we did 2 Zoom conversations where we could take questions from those who are interested, and then those were recorded and posted online. That's excellent. I'm really grateful to the city for the staff that make that happen. And so I think maybe there's even further that we can go to make sure that it's a transparent process with what we do at the commission level and our communication that we have as well too.
And if the cities maybe I am moving on to the next bullet. If the city's not going to give us more money, then I think we have to reduce the amount of the grant. The $25,000, I mean, it would use the money up quickly with four that were, I'd rather spread it out a little bit. I don't have, round figures, 10 or 15. I don't know how many, did we grant 25 to anybody?
No. But
No.
we did 20. 20 was the highest.
I think the highest was 20, somewhere around there, yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that, I think, and a lot of our discussion when we review these is how can we still fund the project but not to the full 25,000, right? And so, yeah, I think decreasing to 20,000 would help facilitate that conversation and also allow us maybe to help more organizations.
So I would normally very much agree with this, but I also think that we can communicate. All we do by reducing the amount is limit then the projects that might be possible. If we want to communicate that regularly projects that are between $10,000 and $20,000 are typically funded, or those that are even $15,000 or less, that's something that we can put on the application form. And so then we're not necessarily limiting things that maybe can do more or are ambitious enough to warrant $25,000, but we're still communicating to applicants, hey, more likely we prefer projects that can be, maybe done within 1 calendar year, finite, and also are done within $15,000. So that's still something we can clarify at the top of the page without limiting. It creates more possibility.
Thank you. And I think the city council needs to know we had $500,000 in requests. And
For sure, yeah.
And there are a lot of those things that could have been funded if we'd had more money.
Yeah, for sure. That is at the top of the list of things I'm going to make in our recommendations next week at the
Now,
meeting.
and to the credit of this Transit Commission, there were applicants that recognized transportation's a problem.
Yeah.
So though those grants weren't given, they certainly got our attention.
Absolutely. And I remember those conversations around that us funding one van isn't going to solve those problems that we've heard tonight, right?
That's right.
And so, we tend to fund other projects because of the impact where the transit problem is a significant one, but one that's not going to be solved by one $15,000 van. So, yeah, that's a great point.
Kelsey, do you think that these two bullets could be then at the next meeting? We'll discuss it some further? The rubric and the scoring and the dollars requested?
If John V is willing to put some, if you have time, because
I'm
it
happy.
would inherently involve you, I think.
Yeah, I'm happy to put a rubric together to make it more equitable and out of 100 rather than 35.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Any other discussion related to the racial equity social justice grants?
So Doug, you're going to present the recommendations at City Council on Tuesday.
I am, and I would invite anyone else who would like to join me to attend.
And then we also had a motion approved last meeting of an official request for more. So does that get presented at the same time?
Yes, I believe so. Right, Stephanie?
You can mention it. I don't, it's not an action item for them, but you can pitch it. I mean, that's,
okay. All right, yeah. I mean, yeah, I will say we voted to petition for more money, so. Okay.
Yeah. And that way it brings it right back in front of them if, refresher.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Absolutely. All right, item 10, the NCJC Gala, April 12th, 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. Is there a flyer for this in the packet?
There is not,
I know
but
there's one that
since
exists.
Neighborhood
this
centers, right?
agenda
Neighborhood
has
centers.
been published, we have a full table.
Oh, we have a full table?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fantastic.
So it was kind of in here as a reminder, but in between, a week made a difference.
Okay.
So.
All right, great. So apologies for, I stole your seat. Looking forward to that, the Neighborhood Centers of Johnson County Gala. Number 11, Disability Health and Safety Expo, which will be held April 14th, the Robert A. Lee Recreation Center. And this is in the packet.
It was an invitation from Mallory, who I think some of you may have worked with Mallory before. So this is a program Mallory put together, and I reserved a table. So, at least one of us from the office would be there, but if a commissioner wants to join us for a few hours, we would be more than enjoy your company. But I can follow up in an email too. And just if you want to come by, stay for an hour, stay for the whole time, just let me know and we will make those arrangements, and we'll take care of getting merch and stuff over there, so you don't have to really worry. It's just kind of just showing up.
All right. Perfect. Okay, then item 12, we have a funding request from the Coralville Asian Festival. This is the last 2 pages of the packet. I've seen a couple of these.
John, can you pronounce her name for me? Sarika?
Sarika.
Doctor?
All right. So Coralville Asian Festival showcases talent, skills, performances by members of the community from different ethnic groups, ages, and abilities. There will be performers from Cedar Rapids, Des Moines, surrounding Iowa City area, students from the University of Iowa and West High School. The goal of the festival is to host a diverse cultural event to celebrate our rich culture and heritage. Event is free to the public. They're requesting $250, which is the maximum for this type of funding. Questions, comments, debate?
Stephanie, I know our extra budgetary there's a limit to it, but I can never remember what the limit is and where we're at right now. Do you have any sense of that?
It's 2,000. And I think to date, to my memory, I think there was one for Welcome Week.
Yeah.
And then I think more recently there was one for the T-shirts at Grant Wood. So I think this would just be the third one. I didn't look it up before the meeting, but I can follow up tomorrow. But
We're not like at risk because neither one of those
No,
previous projects
no.
weren't that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I have attended this last year, and it was wonderful. We had a glitter tattoo table with the Mariam Girls Club. The diversity that you see over there is just, amazing. As Muslims, around 1.3 billion Muslims, they come from Asia. So I was telling, my girls, we are part of this too, people, they think Asians only, China or Japan, and that's it, not including all the other Asian countries or the other, ethnicities within Asia itself. Mm-hmm. So it was amazing how they represented, different cultures from different countries at one setting, provided different kind of food, and it was a lovely atmosphere. I enjoyed it. It rained heavily, so we had to duck from the water and the rain, but it was amazing. And I know that the staff who were behind this, they worked really hard to pull it together and to put it like the way they did. And I think a little bit of support, Mm-hmm. It takes so much, mm-hmm. And it was, it was at the Morris Park, St. Morris Park, and it was like a huge thing with all those vendors and the stage they had up there and the little children participating and keeping up with everything. So I think a little extra help will be great.
I agree.
I'm asking a question because I'm ignorant. Where's Morris Park?
Is it St. Morrison Park, or was it by the fire department, the police department, Coralville?
Northwest Junior High and by the fire department.
My question is because of the 2 first bullets on the rules and requirements for sponsorship.
Mm-hmm.
It's got,
that was going to be my
located in Iowa City, take place in
Iowa City.
That's the only thing that I looked and I was wondering if.
Right. I mean, it is a great festival. It's great for the area and things like that. But it's not in Iowa City, and so does that.
Can we have some direction?
Limit our ability to.
Is there a similar event that somebody's aware of that is put on in Iowa City? No.
No.
I mean, with
I
one of the
know-
recommendations for the grant, there's an organization outside of Iowa City. I mean, just the flip of that is, then there might be another Coralville North Liberty organization who doesn't get funding there, So, I mean, there's always that possibility, but, if it's something that's unique and something that is not duplicated in Iowa City, then that, may lead strength to in support as to why the commission would
Yeah,
want to be a
Viana
part
is
of it.
part of our commission. You live in Iowa City and you're ready to go with this, right? Because you're going to go.
Yes.
I get it.
Because, to me personally, Coralville and Iowa City, it's one big community. And, I know it does not go this way.
Right. I'm an outsider too, I think that way.
But, we participate throughout, both, and, our children, they are, partnering and helping and assisting and volunteering throughout, Iowa City and Coralville as well. And so it's sometimes inseparable, the things that they offer for both. And they serve this, it serves all the other areas, all the surrounding areas. So it's not only, basically for the residents of Coralville itself.
True. I'm sure a lot of people from Iowa City would also go, including me, now that I see it.
I mean, I know we fund the Lunar New Year celebration and things that the Iowa City Asian community does, but I just throwing that out there for consideration. But yeah, go ahead, Kelsey.
I was just curious, I couldn't tell, there wasn't an attached itemized budget, right, Stephanie? It's bolded here, but I don't.
If it was, my page just kind of got mixed up. But what was attached was the form that I received.
Okay, that's all the information. I mean, the only question I had was if they would, they say in the form that they're still in the process of requesting sponsorship. And so if there's any chance that the event wouldn't happen, obviously we'd love to, make the most use of the funds that we have available. So in the event that it didn't happen, which it sounds like if it's happened before, it's very likely to happen again. I'm not sure what exactly we would do for process, but I think we would want to communicate.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Are we tabling the funding request, or do we have a motion to approve, or?
Well, if it goes, within the regulations that stated, to fund those events, then I will go with that. But if it's otherwise, and
So Stephanie, if I understand correctly, the guidelines and rules for the funding, they're there, but if we as a commission say, even though it's in Coralville, it's a benefit to Iowa City also, and we want to fund it, we are within our rights to do so if we vote that way? Or are we bound by the letter of that rule?
I think that's up to the commission whether,
Whether we can, okay.
I'm just going to read the print. Hang on.
All right. Yeah, so give you a second to read through those rules again, and if we don't have a motion to move forward, then we'll just go on to the next agenda item.
Man, this is righteous. Must be, must take place, must have.
yeah,
right,
it's the must.
Mhm. I mean, it also says it must include a budget, which we don't have.
We don't have.
So,
Well, the event, I mean, if it's they would have time, I could reach out to them tomorrow if you just want to table it until April, because they can submit but the program's not till May 18th.
Yes, please.
So I can just reach out and ask for them to submit that, and then it will just be on the April agenda again.
Stephanie, I think that'd be great if they could also share anything about other city-based partners, because they've checked the box about having city funding, but then no details about it. So if they could just share that, that might even help us connect the dots a little bit too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
And again, just to add to it, like this, it caters for all the surrounding areas. So it's not only for Coralville. And I've been living here since 2015. I haven't seen anything like similar to this within Iowa City or even North Liberty or the surrounding areas. So this is why it's avoiding
Right.
for the rest.
And just last week on Friday, there was something at the Coralville Public Library.
Yes.
Yes.
And you missed that.
I did.
And I think I kind of get the sense that we all are in agreement that this is great. We just kind of don't want to get into an area where, something comes back to us and is, we've overstepped or, gone against what we're allowed to do. So
I think this request form was designed by the commission. That's what it says at the top, Human Rights Sponsorship Request Form.
Well, that's what it's titled, but I mean, this is an Iowa City government, so just thinking about the tax base and stuff, it's not a matter of, Corville, North, it's just being mindful of the members that pay in, who's paying in and things like that.
Where this funding comes from.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. All right.
So we double check that and then.
So
get back
we'll
to
double
us?
check. We'll get some more information and we'll bring it up on the April agenda.
Okay, sure.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Item 13, Trans Day of Visibility Proclamation and Event. Last week, I attended the City Council meeting and along with a member of the Iowa City Pride organization, accepted the proclamation for the Trans Day of Visibility, which I have here with me, which the commission also kind of presented to the council. This was brought from us to the council. They then, the mayor proclaimed this. So just want to read through it here since this kind of was our sponsorship as well. Whereas a wave of discriminatory state laws is targeting transgender Iowans, terrifying families, harming kids, and creating an unwelcoming environment across our state. And whereas these discriminatory laws and the harmful rhetoric that accompany them often lead to violence against transgender individuals, as witnessed in the recent tragic case of Nex Benedict on February 8th, 2024 in Oklahoma. And whereas transgender people deserve to feel safe in Iowa City, deserve autonomy over their bodies and lives, and shouldn't have to tolerate hateful remarks and opinions that invalidate their experiences and put them in danger. And whereas transgender adults deserve the same rights and freedoms afforded to all citizens, including equal access to healthcare, housing, jobs. And whereas according to a survey by the National Center for Transgender Equality, nearly 1/2 of transgender individuals have thought about moving to another state because their state government considered or passed laws that target transgender people for unequal treatment. And more than 1/10 of those people actually moved. And whereas, in order to remain competitive and retain local talent, Iowa City and its businesses must be accommodating to trans employees and advocate against discriminatory laws introduced in the Iowa legislature. So now, therefore, I, Bruce Teague, Mayor of Iowa City, do hereby proclaim March 31st, 2024, Transgender Day of Visibility, and call upon all to join us in lifting up the lives and voices of transgender people and to work toward eliminating violence and discrimination against all transgender, gender nonconforming, and non-binary people. Signed on March 19th. So that's the proclamation for Transgender Day of Visibility, which is coming up on March 31st, this Sunday. Yep. There are several events in the Iowa City area. Mandy Remington and the Corridor Community Action Network are organizing a lot of those. We have cooperated with them and kind of lent our support and vocal solidarity with those, as well as I've extended a hand to help with organizing or anything that she might need. So, yeah. Any other comments or thoughts on Transgender Day of Visibility?
And just to be mindful of the time. Yep. I don't know. I mean, one, if commission committees have men and there's notes, you could just send them to myself and I could distribute them out to anybody. And in the same way, if there's any updates that you want one another to know, you can send it to me and I can compile it and just send it out because you're missing 3 folks anyway. So more people than are here may want to hear about what you've been up to as well. So
Yeah, I like that.
it's hard when meetings have to end just when somebody walks out. So just trying to bring so you actually have like an adjournment. And everything
Yes,
like
yeah,
that
thank you,
is-
Stephanie.
yes.
Yeah, I think that's great. So if your subcommittee has met, send the notes to Stephanie. She'll share those out. If you haven't met, you've got a little extra time to do that and get your notes to Stephanie.
I was going to make an extended report on my activities, but I won't do that now. I do want you to know that Sunday is the last day at the Cedar Rapids Art Museum, Power and Impact, a survey of Black visual arts in Iowa. We went, it's powerful.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Commissioner announcements, we'll send those to Stephanie. Again, if there are updates, things that you want the rest of the commissioners to know about, we'll do that via email. Stephanie, any staff announcements? No. All right. With that, and knowing that we must end by 7 tonight to maintain our quorum, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
I'll second that.
All right, motion carried. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks.